One is care, concerns about care have taken 1 million people out of the workforce. And then if you take a look at the other reason, I don't want to work at this time, and you're starting to see those are, and also did not report a reason, those are ticking up. It's an interesting large bucket that kind of struck me. And so I started to ask myself, could that be a function of the extended unemployment insurance that the federal government has been providing, and states, and through the states? Are we creating an incentive for people to stay back and not work? So we put our data squad together on this, and we did an analysis. Interestingly, there are 25 states that have announced or have already made the change that they are going to suspend federal unemployment benefits, the extended federal unemployment benefits, the $300 a week. And then there are 25 that have not. And so we said, well, why don't we compare application rates for both of those groups? So let me explain why we wanted to take a look at application rates. So application rates are the number of applies that an employer gets, divided by the number of clicks it takes to generate those applies. So if you have 100 clicks on a job and you get 10 applications, you have a 10% apply rate. If you have 5 applies and 100 clicks, you have a 5% apply rate. So it's just a measure of seeker engagement with a cohort of jobs. So we did this not for a specific employer, we did it for all of the jobs that Appcast manages, which, on any given day, we have about 4 million jobs that are sponsored through our platform. And so, and the reason why we were looking at apply rate is we've done a whole bunch of statistical work over the years, and we publish this every year in the Appcast benchmark report that shows there's a correlation between unemployment rate and apply rate. In states that have a lower unemployment rate, meaning that it is more competitive, okay, there's fewer people out of work, what we see is the application rate is lower. It means that people are pickier. They're looking at more jobs and they're applying to fewer of them. And we find that in states that have a higher unemployment rate, they have higher application rates, meaning that people are looking at jobs and they're applying to more of them because they care less about what job they get. They just want to get a job. So our hypothesis was that we would see lower apply rates in states that have the unemployment benefit suspended, and we would see we would see lower unemployment rates in the states that are continuing to pay unemployment, and we would have higher unemployment rates in the states that had suspended unemployment. And what's interesting is that at one glance, that proved to be true. The states that changed unemployment had a higher apply rate, and the states that didn't change their unemployment, of giving the extra $300, had a lower apply rate. But what's super goofy is that we went back in time and we found out that those 25 states that suspended the additional federal unemployment always, as a group, have higher apply rates than the states that are continuing to pay it. So then we said, oh, all right, well, maybe the question is, what impact did the suspension of the benefits have on the rate of change? And what we found was actually the states that continue to pay the $300 per week in unemployment had a faster change in the apply rate in a positive direction than the states that did it, which was completely nonsensical. So it was actually exactly the opposite of what we expected. That the data seems to indicate that the incentive not to work provided by the additional federal unemployment insurance isn't having that effect. It's actually more people in those states are applying for jobs. So we said, okay, well, maybe there's a sample bias here. So we, instead of comparing the 25 to 25, where you've got New York and California in one group, and you've got, North Dakota and South Dakota in a different group, and those are very different states. Let's try and have a cohort of states that are more similar and compare what happens. And so what we did was we took North Carolina, Kansas, Kentucky, and Louisiana. Those were states that did suspend the federal unemployment benefits, or announced that they were. And then we took South Carolina, Arkansas, Alabama, Missouri, and those states were the ones that did not suspend the federal unemployment benefit. And we saw exactly the same thing. The states that continue to give $300 per week to those that are unemployed have a higher application rate growth than the states that didn't. And so it shows absolutely the opposite of our expectation. So we were really scratching our head. We were like, this doesn't make a lot of sense to us. So we reran the data over and over and over again. And then our fellow analysts and economists over at Indeed published something that totally supported what we just found. They actually found that job search activity ahead of state unemployment cutoffs in general went down. Compared to when you take into account those that are ending early, our two graphs looked exactly the same. So the states that were not opting out early compared to the states that were, traffic, job seeker traffic went lower in the states that were suspending the extra federal benefits, and the apply rates went down as well. So what this means to me is there's something at work here that doesn't necessarily jibe. If job searches are down, in states that are cutting the federal unemployment benefit, which kind of goes counter to it, you would expect to see more people searching, and you would expect to see higher apply rates in those states because people are going to be losing money. If that isn't happening, something else is afoot here. And that's, kind of the big take-home point, is that there isn't a clear explanation for what's going on with job seekers. What is going on with job seekers is they're behaving oddly.